Honorable Osoro, you're in the parliamentary leadership. I would assume that you know who the nominees to the panel are from the Parliamentary Service Commission at least. Who are they?
Hold your horses, Sam. It is the final day. This is the 7th day. And we are yet to hear from the minority side on their nominee. But I hope their threats are just hot air. They would participate in...
You're listening to the deputy minority.
I really just hope this is just to please a few of, their supporters on national TV this morning, and I hope the name will be submitted today from their side. But let me say this:
do you have a name for the majority side?
Yes. That is true. And, no, we wouldn't preempt. That is the work now of the Parliamentary Service Commission, okay, which I actually do not sit. I have no privilege of sitting in that.
How has that name arrived at?
You see, Kenya Kwanza is a consultative, side of the political divide. We really consult everything. So, but let me say this, Sam. I wanted to advise my colleague, and of course it's not in my place to advise an opponent for now, Honorable Mbui, that elections are won in the ballot and through convincing people. You need to go out and learn previous. You see, in the last election...
You haven't answered my question, eh?
The Kenya Kwanza, because I've just said...
I've asked you, how was the name arrived at?
But I've said, you'll hear from the Parliamentary Service Commission. It is actually a preserve of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I may be having an idea.
Parliamentary
I may be
Service
wrong
Commission
or
does
right.
not know how Kenya Kwanza arrived at the name.
But that's what I'm saying. I may be right or wrong. It could be imaginary. I gave my opinion too. I was asked of my opinion, and that is why I'm imagining my opinion counted. So let's allow the Parliamentary Service Commission to do their work. But there's some point I wanted to say first to Honorable Mbui and everyone. Kenyans need to understand why Azimio is complaining, what their imaginations are. Previously, the selection panel for the IEBC had 4 positions to appoint to the selection panel. What is being proposed by these, different committees or different commissions is a selection panel which is going to advertise, to the public with the list of requirements for members of the public to apply, whoever that wants to sit in the commission. So what we are discussing here and debating and fighting over is actually a selection panel and the composition of the selection panel. Previously, it was the Parliamentary Service Commission had 4 positions of the selection panel.
Right.
So what then it meant, the minority would appoint 2 and the majority would appoint 2. Then what happens to the small parties who are not in the parliamentary groups? What happens to small parties like the PPK? They have MCAs, but they do not have members of parliament. What happens to them? They had no say on who sits in the selection panel for the IEBC. So what we decided to do as parliament, we brought an amendment to have these 2 positions, given to her. One position goes to the political liaison, the liaison of the political parties, which has already been filled so far. They couldn't have had that opportunity as the smaller parties to sit in that selection panel. But now they have an opportunity. But Azimio is saying, we want to be all-inclusive, but we do not want small parties. That is why we want to be parliamentary.
Their suspicion, at least I heard from Senator Manzo, is that your coalition is going to infiltrate and determine who is elected by these other institutions, like IRCK.
It is imaginary. You see, it's imagination. The interreligious organization per se is independent. In any case, by the way, Kenya Kwanza took over government the other day. These people had instruments of power the other day. I mean, really, even learning the ropes within government or within these commissions and everything will take a bit of some time. And by the way, what is with this thing imaginary of control of IEBC when all these people had what we call deep state and everything and control of police and everything, and they still lost elections? The point is this, that these are independent. The imagination that we control the church, we control, Kenya Kwanza controls the Islamic faith, Kenya Kwanza controls the political parties, the other liaison thing, Kenya Kwanza controls LSK. I mean, really, they're simply imagining that if whatever, and by the way, what the selection panel is doing is what we passed in the National Assembly, where Honorable Robert Mbui sits. I was here in this panel when we were discussing about who is the majority and who is the minority.
Right.
And they say they have numbers and they could pass everything. We were in the National Assembly together with them as we were passing the amendments. By the way, they went through public participation. We didn't even see anybody challenging that. The entire process was on. Nobody went to court for an injunction. If we, really, what Azimio is doing is the same mistake, doing the same mistake every day and expecting different results. They simply have lost focus. Go to the public and campaign and tell people vote for us. Whether it is Robert Mbui's IBC chair or not, if the public do not want you, they do not want you. By the way, this is simply a selection panel. I'll advise them, propose the name, let the selection panel advertise the job vacancies available, let people apply, tell several of their supporters to apply for such a position. Tell several people. In fact, I'll advise that they tell Robert Mbui applies for such a position. Maybe he qualifies. So that at least we see whether he'll be shortlisted.
He doesn't qualify. He's been in politics. No. A commissioner, you don't need to be...
You don't need to be a lawyer, but you don't qualify because you are inactive.
Sam,